Hello and welcome back to the Park Fermi Parley podcast. I am your host Kieran Downey, and today we're going to be getting into the driver market for 2025. That's right, we are going to look at the seats that are already confirmed, the spots on the grid that are still to be filled, who we think is going to be filling them, and what do we think is going to be happening to some of the drivers who I believe will not be on the grid in 2025. So we're going to start at the top of the grid and then work our way down, purely because the top of the grid is where the majority of the seats are already filled. And then we'll kind of just shimmy our way on down to the bottom, and then we'll get into the drivers that I don't think will be here in 2025. And we're also going to take a look at Andretti and the update on what's going on with them and their bid to enter Formula One. So let's start off with Red Bull. And we already know that Max Verstappen is signed on with Red Bull Racing, I believe, until 2028. Now, there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about Max and whether he's going to leave Red Bull. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? What's his plans? And it's all come from the Christian Horner situation, which Max has never spoken on. There's been plenty of rumours surrounding Max and his discontent with the team and the internal struggle that's going on. These were paralleled with Adrian Newey and will he leave, will he stay, his feelings on everything. Neither of them have ever publicly said anything really. Obviously, with Newey leaving, then a lot of people said that Max would then leave the team. I don't think so yet. Now, do I think Max will leave Red Bull at some point? Yes. But do I think he'll leave in 2026? No. Purely because he has nowhere else to go. Max is a man that likes to win. And with 2026, he is still going to have a fairly competitive car. A lot of the rumours say that Max is going to leave Red Bull, he's going to go to Mercedes. I don't see it for 2025. Mercedes can't seem to get a car to work with these regs. What the rumours are saying is that in 2026, with the big change of regulation, Mercedes are going to be a lot more competitive. So I don't think it makes any sense for Max to leave a fairly competitive, if not the team right now, to go to a team that are struggling. Let's be honest, they're struggling. So I don't see Max leaving in 2025. I see him staying for at least a year. We all talk about contracts, and I actually spoke about contracts when I did my Ocon podcast. Formula One drivers will rip a contract up. Fernando Alonso, he will literally burn a contract in front of a team to go somewhere else. Hamilton managed to get out of his contract to go to Ferrari. Verstappen also apparently has clauses in his contract to do with Helmut Marko and all these different things. So I just don't see him leaving just yet. However, the other seat at Red Bull has yet to be confirmed. Now, who do I think is going to be racing alongside Max in 2025? Checo Perez. If we look at 2023, the man had a very good start to the year, fell off a cliff, kind of brought it back a little bit, but still managed to get second in the championship. This year, kind of seems like it's going the same way. He was very, very good. He seems to beginning to fall off the cliff. I mean, we don't know. He might be able to pull it back. The difference being this time that Ferrari and McLaren are a lot more competitive very early on. They are keeping the fight to Red Bull consistently as time and time goes on. Will he be able to get second in the championship? Will it be Charles Leclerc? Will it be Lando Norris? No, we don't know yet. Perez is a very good number two. When he's good, he's a very good number two. And that's what Red Bull needs. That team is built around Max. They need him to play the number two. And he plays the number two well when he's driving well. I've seen rumours that Checo was looking for a multi-year contract. And I think at the beginning of the year, that might have gone his way. With recent performance, it seems as though it might have swung back in Red Bull's favour. And I'm seeing that Checo is very close to signing on a dotted line, signing with Red Bull, but it will only be for 1 year. I just think that we will see Perez in 2025 at Red Bull. 2026 is a completely different game, but that's what I'm believing for Red Bull Racing. Moving on to Ferrari very quickly, Charles Leclerc locked in multi-year contract. Lewis Hamilton The reason that all this is going on, Lewis Hamilton locked in to Ferrari in 2025. Moving on to another team that we can talk about very briefly, it's McLaren. We know that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are signed on both for multiple years. That team is very steady. That driver pairing works very well together. They're both fantastic drivers. That team is solid. They're doing very good things. Do I think we'll see Oscar Piastri winning a race in 2024? I do. I think he will. I think he'll pull it out the bag this year. And then I think McLaren can only go on the up. Moving on to Mercedes, and we know that George Russell is locked in at that team. He looks set to become the top driver for the team leader almost. And I think it'd be very interesting to see what happens with George and Mercedes going into 2026. 2025, I think, will be another quite rocky year for the team. But 2026, I'm expecting big things from Mercedes. I think those regulations will suit that team very, very well. We all know Lewis Hamilton is vacating the team at the end of this year. So who do I think is going to fill that seat? I think we'll see Carlos Sainz there. Sainz is somebody that has, I think there is like a rumour linking him to nearly every team on the grid. There is big talk of him going to Kick Sauber for the Audi takeover. I just don't think Sainz will go to Sauber purely because of Sauber's performance. I don't think Sainz would want to be embarrassed being at that team because it is quite embarrassing at the moment. That team is at the back of the pack. They are struggling, and I don't think Sainz would be willing to do a year fighting all the way at the back. I think he wants to stay in competitive teams. He wants to be fighting for wins and podiums. So I think he will go to a top team. That top team I think he will go to is Mercedes. I don't think he'll stay there for long. I think he will do a year there and then reassess the driver market for 2026. But I think he will stay there for a year, be fairly competitive. You know, he's not going to be, he'll be fighting for points. He's not fighting for P18. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's where Sainz is going to go. I've seen talk of him going to Williams. I think that could be a possibility. Again, I don't think he wants to be at the back of the grid. I've also seen rumours linking him to Aston Martin. I've seen rumours linking him to Alpine. I've seen rumours about him with every team on the grid, but I just think Mercedes is where he'll go, see out the year, and then reassess in 2025 for the 2026 season. Okay, moving on. Aston Martin in a fairly big surprise. The reason that I think Sainz is going to go to Mercedes is because I actually initially thought Alonso would go to Mercedes. And with Alonso signing on to Aston Martin, I'm now thinking Sainz is going there. So yes, Alonso signed on to Aston Martin. Am I surprised? A little bit, purely because, and I've said this before, Aston Martin in 2023, the beginning of 2023, that team was fighting for podiums and was doing very, very well in the championship. And then they fell off a cliff. It all went backwards. And they just seem to be continuously going backwards. And it's a little bit worrying for Aston Martin. He obviously sees something in the team. Aston Martin has a spare seat, and in no surprise to anyone, I think it'll be Lance Stroll. I don't think that whilst Lawrence is in control of that team, that we won't see Lance Stroll on the grid. Do I think Lance will continue to race for Aston Martin in the future? No, because I don't think Lance Stroll will continue to own that team. They're not getting podiums, they're not really getting points anymore. His son seems to be going that way along with the team. You know, we know that Lance is a good driver, so I don't know what's going on with him. His awareness just seems to have left the building. Whilst Daddy is in control of the team, he will stay at the team. I think we'll see the same as this year, the same as last year. Alonso and Stroll will be at Aston Martin. Okay, moving on to Alpine. Now, Alpine is the first of the teams we're going to talk about today that don't have any drivers signed to them yet. However, I think that one seat will be filled with Pierre Gasly. I think Gasly is quite set with Alpine. It's a great story for him, a French driver at a French team, and I just see him wanting to continue that story. I don't know what's going on with Alpine at the moment. They are struggling. You know, they have 2 points now. I think there's going to be some serious changes. I mean, in fact, to be fair, there's constantly changes coming out of that team. Every week there seems to be an announcement that somebody's been let go. They're bringing in somebody else. I think Pierre Gasly will stay there, though. I don't think he'll leave. The second seat, however, bye-bye Ocon. I don't think Ocon will stay. Even without what happened in Monaco, I think that Alpine would be keen to split that driver pairing up purely because it is so toxic. Those two drivers don't like each other. We covered this in my previous podcast about Ocon potentially getting benched. We know he isn't now. Ocon has come out with a whole statement. He has said he's, really hurt about all the negative comments being made about him as a person, as a driver, after the Monaco incident. And he has said, I look forward to racing in Canada. So we know he's going to Canada. He will be racing there. He will not be replaced by Jack Doohan. He's not getting benched. But we also know he's shopping about for a seat for 2025. There's been rumours linking him to Haas. There's been rumours linking him to Williams. There's been rumours linking him to Kick Cyber, who I think will go to Alpine, is Mick Schumacher. Now, Mick is currently the reserve driver for Mercedes. However, he is competing with Alpine in the World Endurance Championships and is doing very well, apparently. I haven't watched any of the endurance races this year, but apparently he is doing very well. There's been a lot of talk about Jack Doohan potentially going into Alpine, signing on for 2025 as a driver. However, I just don't see it happening. I think he will continue with the team as a reserve driver. Mick Schumacher has experience in Formula One. It wasn't that great, obviously. He was with Haas. We all know how that went. He has matured. He's gotten older. He's still being competitive. He's not just sitting on the sidelines, just being a reserve. He is still competing. I think he's ready to come back to F1. I don't think he was ready the first time. I think he should have gone and done a little bit more in other series and then gone to F1. But I think it's time. I think he's ready to come back, and I think we'll see a lot better things from Mick Schumacher. Moving on to Williams. Now, we know Alex Albon has already signed on for Williams for 2025. I don't think it was any surprise that Albon was going to stay. He seems very dead set at the team. The team seem very happy with him. He seems to have a lot of confidence in team principal, James Vowles, and vice versa. I think James is doing a lot with that team. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. Who do I think will pair alongside him? Valtteri Bottas. I see Valtteri signing on for Williams in 2025. I think it will be 1 year. I don't think he'll stay for long. Valtteri's time in F1 may be coming to an end fairly soon. It seems as though he's just kind of been there for banter. He's not having a great time this year, Kick Cyber. A lot of that is to do with the team and the car. I think he'll go to Williams and see out a bit of time at Williams. He's been seen in the garages. I think it was at Imola. He was seen in the Williams garage. So I think we'll see him go to Williams. I don't think there's anywhere really else for him to go. He's done with Cyber. So I think he's going to move. He's not going to be able to move to one of the top teams. He's not going to go rejoin Mercedes. He's not going to Red Bull. He's not going to go to Aston Martin. If he's staying in Formula One, if he's not retiring, I think he's going to Williams. Moving on, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. I think we'll see Yuki Tsunoda re-sign on for 2025. Currently, they've not got any drivers signed on yet, but I think we'll see Tsunoda stay. I don't think they're going to promote him up to the main team. I think they'll keep him there as the experienced driver. Do I think he'll stay there for long? No, I think there is a potential that he will go to Aston Martin at some point. It's purely because Honda is going there as the engine partner. I do believe that Yuki has more ties to Honda than he does to Red Bull. So I don't think he'll stay with that team. With Honda leaving Red Bull and joining Aston Martin, I think Yuki will follow that. I think Yuki will stay at Racing Bulls for at least a year and then reassess again in 2026. Or maybe later. But I think he's going to sign on and he'll be what he is now, essentially, the top driver for that team. Now, the pairing to Yuki Tsunoda, I believe, will be Liam Lawson. Now, we know in 2023 there was a lot of talk about Lawson signing on for 2024. That obviously didn't happen. They signed Ricciardo. Ricciardo's not performing, but we'll come on to him later. And then there was Christian Horner and Helmut Marko all saying that Liam Lawson had been guaranteed a seat in 2025. And I think that is where we'll see him enter into the sport for VCARB. He was very impressive in 2023. Everyone was lashing praise on him. I mean, it was deserved. He was doing great. I do think that he should be given a chance in Formula One for at least a season. And I think it should be next year. Okay, moving on. Kick Cyber. So Nico Hülkenberg has signed on. He was very vocal for quite a while that he was wanting to drive for Audi. He's a German driver, it's a German team, it makes sense. So he was signed on. I wasn't really surprised by it. And I am very excited to see what Hulkenberg can do. Unfortunately, he is going to have 1 year in a worse team than what he is in right now. Kick Sauber is awful. I don't know what's going on at that team, but it is like they're driving paper mache cars. Who do I think will be alongside Hulkenberg? I don't think we'll see signs, as I said earlier. I don't think that Sauber can attract a top driver right now. Their position on the grid, they're the only team now to not score points. Like, they don't even have one. They're constantly at the back of the grid. They're qualifying P19, P20. They're not achieving great things. They're not achieving anything. Like, just give us something, a glimmer of hope that there is anything in that team. But that being said, I believe that for 2025, we will see Esteban Ocon joining the team. Now, we know that Audi is very keen to sign Carlos Sainz. They want him in that car. They have offered him a very lucrative contract, but Carlos wants to be in a competitive team, and unfortunately, he's not going to want to be in a team that's P18 at best for a year. There's also rumours floating about that the team are eyeing up Esteban Ocon if they can't get Sainz. I don't think they'll get Sainz. As I said, I think Sainz will go to Mercedes for the year, so I think that they will bring on Esteban Ocon for 2025. I know they're quite keen to sign on drivers for a multiple year contract, like what they've done with Hulkenberg. They're keen that the driver that goes into the car in 2025 will be in there for the changeover to 2026, but that might not happen. Unfortunately, Kick Sauber are just not in the position to attract any decent talent. And I'm not saying that Esteban's not decent. We know he's a good driver. We covered this all in the previous podcast. But recent performance is just not going to nab him a top spot. Toto Wolff's not going to be signing on Esteban Ocon right now, let's be serious. Fortunately, he is going to have to sign with a team at the back of the grid, and I think it will be Kick Sauber. I feel bad for the guy, but at least he's still going to be able to call himself an F1 driver. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I do believe he will sign on for Kick Sauber. And finally, Team Haas. Now, Haas haven't signed anybody yet. However, I think it is all but confirmed that Oliver Bearman will be signing on with the Haas team in 2025. Who'd have thought that 18-year-old Oliver Bearman would jump into the Ferrari in Saudi Arabia, one of the hardest circuits of the year, to replace Carlos Sainz, who's having surgery, and get P7. When that happened, him entering Formula 1 in 2025 was all but confirmed, let's be honest. They obviously don't have a seat for him at Ferrari, but where do they have a seat for him? Haas. It makes sense. Ferrari is their engine supplier. It all just coincides, it works well. Ferrari and Haas are also testing Oliver Bearman pretty regularly. He's obviously got the FP1 tests with Haas. He's done 1 out of 6, I believe it is. So it makes sense. They are getting him ready for F1. He will be in a Formula 1 car, in the Haas car, in 2025. It's now just a matter of time for them to announce it. We know it's coming, just when, we don't know. I imagine it will be within the next couple of months. Like, we know there's a space there. Hulkenberg's leaving. If it was a question about, oh, we don't want to rock the boat between the two drivers we've already got, so we'll just hold off on announcing Ollie, the space is there. Imagine if we're making all this fuss and then it's like, nope, you're reserve driver again. But I don't see that being the case. I believe Oliver Bearman will be in the Haas car in 2025. Who do I think will be with him? I do think it will be Kevin Magnussen. I'd be fairly confident in saying that Haas would want to partner Ollie up with somebody that is experienced. And I believe that will be Kevin Magnussen. Now, his obviously recent performance has been atrocious. The man is 2 points away from the race ban. The man should already have a race ban, but I'm getting grief about saying that on TikTok, so I'm going to rein that in. Teams don't want to have 2 rookies. They're not a big fan of having 2 rookie drivers, so I feel it in my bones that Magnussen might do at least 1 year. Let Ollie get embedded into the team. Another year of Magnussen, and I think Magnussen will be out of the sport in 2025. They need someone, and I think it will be Magnussen. Now, moving on to some drivers that there's been rumours about them joining F1, or their current drivers on the grid that I just don't think will be there. I'm going to start off with Kimi Andrea Antonelli. Hamilton signed to Ferrari, everybody lost their minds, and everybody started talking about Antonelli, who's currently an F2 driver. Everybody kept talking about it, and even today, people are still talking about it. Now, Mercedes has been doing some tests with Antonelli. There was also a request to the FIA to allow Antonelli to gain his super license before the age of 18. Sorry about the lighting, by the way. I'm sat beside my window and it's such a nice day, so it's like up and down sunny because any other lighting's just not making a difference. I don't know why the dispensation was made, but I don't think it was for him to enter Formula 1 this year. I don't think he'll enter Formula 1 in 2025. He is currently in his first season in F2, and it's not as if he's lighting up the world. He's doing all right, but I don't think it's worthy enough to rush him into F1. I think we would end up seeing maybe like a Mick Schumacher. He'd be brought into F1 and he wouldn't have a great time at all. Also, Mercedes is just flat out denying everything. We know Mercedes likes to play their cards a little close to the chest. I do believe that they are not interested in bringing Antonelli into F1 just yet. Next, Zhou Guanyu. I believe this is Zhou Guanyu's last season in F1. Let's be honest, the man's done nothing to warrant keeping him in F1. Now, I know obviously he brings heaps of money and marketability with him being the only Chinese driver on the grid. That being said, is that enough to keep him in F1? Some say yes, I say no. He's constantly at the back, and I know he's not driving a great car, but oh, I'm so bored of seeing him do nothing. Moving on, Logan Sargent. Again, last season in F1. For 2 years now, we've watched Logan Sargent do nothing other than crash his car, qualify 20th, finish 20th. Just do something, please. So, yeah, I think this is his last season. Will they maybe keep him on as a reserve driver? Potentially, but last season in F1, don't see him staying. Next up, Daniel Ricciardo. Now, I'm in two minds about this one, and I know that Red Bull love him, and Christian Horner loves him, and Christian Horner seems to be the one that makes a lot of the decisions, but my God, is his return to F1 being the most underwhelming thing ever. Like, the hype of him returning to F1 was wild. The whole Drive to Survive episode about it. But my God, the man has just lost his touch. We're watching him just struggle. It's struggle bus. Oh my God. Do you know something? In China, I was so hyped. I was on the Danny Rick hype train because I was like, they've given him a new chassis. He's going to be up there. He's going to be doing great things. And I'm still waiting. Apart from one like mad P4 sprint in Miami. See, if he was at least just matching Tsunoda, I'd be with you. I'm all there. Danny Rick. Woo woo. Oh, Daniel Ricciardo. But right now, I'm just tired of it. I'm really tired of it. So moving on to our final topic of today's podcast is Andretti's bid to get into F1. Now, as we know, Andretti requested entry into F1. It was granted by the FIA, the governing body. However, Formula One themselves and Formula One management said, ho, slow your roll. You're not joining. No. We do not believe that you will bring anything to this sport. If anything, we believe Formula One is more of a benefit to you than you are to Formula One. You will get more out of this than we will as a sport. We don't want you to join as the 11th team. This obviously kicked up a furor. The US Congress got involved. They wrote to Formula One and said, can you please explain why you can't let Andretti sign on as the 11th team? I haven't actually seen what F1 said back to that, but the time has passed for them to reply. Maybe I'll look at that after. And then it was just kind of stalled. But Formula One are not moving. They're not wanting an 11th team. But Andretti's going for it. They've built factories. They're hiring personnel. They are going for entry into Formula One. Then Monaco came around and the FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, told Andretti to forget about their ambitions to enter as the 11th team and to enter by buying a current Formula One team. Ben Sulayem said, "I feel that some teams need to be refreshed. What's better, 11 teams as a number or 10 that are strong? It's not about the number, it's about the quality." Before I move on to the Andretti side of that, who are they buying? Like, what team would they buy? That's what I want to know, because Aston Martin is a potential maybe when Lawrence Stroll has gotten fed up of funneling money into a team that's going nowhere and his son's still not a driver's champion. Maybe Lawrence Stroll gets bored and is sick fed up of spending money and sells the team to Andretti. That's a possibility. Alpine? Could Alpine sell to Andretti? Maybe. What seems to be overlooked here is the significant investment that Andretti has already made into entering as the 11th team. They're building factories, they're hiring personnel. They're not a team, they're not looking like they're going to buy a team. They're looking like they're entering as their own. They don't want to buy over an existing. As I said, what team is for sale? The only two I would say potentially, Aston Martin and Alpine. However, they will come with a huge inflated price tag, a price tag that Andretti might not be willing to pay purely because they've done so much to enter on their own. There's also going to be so many conditions into buying one of these teams. Most likely, engine partners. Like, Alpine aren't going to be able to sell to Andretti and Renault will just go, "Oh, right, see you later. Bye. Catch ya." So Andretti's partnered with General Motors. General Motors are planning to introduce their own power unit in 2028. Andretti won't buy a team if they're contracted to have to use an engine supplier. If they were doing that with Alpine, they'd have to use Renault. If they were doing that with Aston Martin, they would have to use Honda. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it was 2026 that they were planning on entering. It doesn't seem, every day it doesn't seem likely, but Andretti is full steam ahead. As I said, they're building factories, they're hiring personnel from Formula One. They're not stopping. So what happens? Because I can't see them buying a team, and Formula One's not willing to let them enter as the 11th. And I guess we're just going to have to wait and see, but there's going to have to be an end point, and it's either they're entering F1 or everything they've done has been for nothing. And it can't be that everything they've done has been for nothing, because what a massive waste of time, effort, money. So they have to enter somehow. Just how, I don't know. And that is it for today's podcast. That is all I've got to say about the 2025 driver market. I think that very, very soon we're going to start getting more and more announcements. We've only had a few so far, but I think it's going to ramp up pretty quickly. One more driver has to sign on somewhere and everything will begin to come together. And it's Carlos Sainz. He just needs to put his name on the dotted line, and for the love of God, please do it soon, because I can't take much more of the rumours. However, it does make great content. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on the driver market. We will be back with emergency podcasts should anybody signs on. We will be back with further updates about Andretti should we find anything else out. And we will be back very soon with our predictions for the Canadian Grand Prix. We are going to Montreal for... I quite like the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm a big fan of it, actually. I really like the circuit. And then we'll be back covering everything over the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. But that is it. I will see you later. Have a great rest of your day. See you soon. Love you. Bye.